Yeah, yeah. If we zoom in a bit, like we did in London. So yeah, we've got Kowloon Park. Okay,
But it's still, I would say, not nearly as bad as a place like, say, Phnom Penh, where there's very little emphasis. I mean, when they call something a park, it's usually just a place that hasn't been developed yet.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
not really a
And
park.
yeah, the streets in Hong Kong to me feel like what you often think of like Manhattan. So if I just drop Mr. Stickman down here, you see this? So I just dropped on a random street. Okay. All right. So we're live. It's 9:38 UK time. Let me see what time it is there in Cambodia. It's 4:38 Cambodia time. We're supposed to be starting at 4 p.m. Cambodia time, but somebody turned up a little bit late today.
Sorry about that. That was me. That was
So
me.
what happened, Michael? I heard there was a run-in with the police.
Yeah, so I'm driving down the road in my full jiu-jitsu uniform. Let's just set the stage, right?
Not
Because
let you sneak out.
that's gonna matter later, right? Okay, so I'm in my full jiu-jitsu uniform, belt and everything, gi top, and I get I'm going through an intersection, and the light changes just as I cross the white line to yellow, and I make it through the intersection before the light turns red. I'm like, okay, made it, cool. I get pulled over. I'm fuming. I'm like, I know I'm good. I'm gravy. It wasn't red, nothing. He says, "Oh, I've caught you on the camera. You ran the light." I said, "Show me the camera." And this is the first time I ever had a guy actually show me. He's like, "There's a picture of you." I was like, "Hey, it's a good picture of me." And but he was right that apparently, if the light changes yellow, you have to stop at the line. And it's like, well, what if I'm moments before the line going 50 kilometers per hour, and then you want me to slam on my brakes and skid into the intersection? How does this play out properly? And so I'm assuming it's one of those sort of things where they're like, every 5 minutes they can be like, gotcha. They just get the last guy in line every time, pretty much. So I call my wife. She gets on the phone with a guy. He spoke pretty good English. But she talks to him, and to give some context, my wife's Khmer, so she was able to talk to him, and so he goes, no, you're wrong. Go talk to the guy. I go and sit down, and talk to the guy, and the guy asks me. He says, "Are you a teacher of Taekwondo?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm just just get through the conversation. He's like, "I like Taekwondo." And long story short, he eventually is like, "How much money you got?" And I literally had nothing. And I'm like, "I got nothing." And he's like, "Okay, bring me some money tomorrow. Get on your way." I was like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you. Guys are waiting on me. I got to run." So here we are. I am fine. I'm safe,
Okay, cool.
And thank you, Cambodia Police Department, for taking it easy on me today.
Well, Lawrence, while we were waiting for you to come, we were thinking about doing a new format for the podcast, because at the podcast, what we've been doing previously is we all bring something interesting from the world of open data to share on the podcast. Yeah, so we were thinking about doing a bit of a deeper dive into specific topics, and police corruption would be a great one. That's a great segue into it, because
Absolutely.
It was something anybody who's lived in a developing country is very familiar with. So one of the big problems that developing countries have, especially around subjects like corruption, it's not as simple as you might think. So what happens is often the governments don't pay civil servants, or they don't have enough money to pay civil servants, or they're not on a living wage.
Yeah.
So you get a certain type of graft that's built into the system. So an example would be like police checkpoints, police fines. You'll often get what you call an on-the-spot fine, and it's often for a pretty regular amount. Everybody knows what it is. You run a red light, it's $5. When
$5? I get off for $2, man.
Oh, you get off for $2? Well, you got a
paying
nice
him
smile.
$5.
It's that southern charm. They give me $5.
Please.
That's the starting
Sorry.
bit. So they all know what it is, but it's an interesting problem, because everybody's just so used to it. It's like that's just how it is. You have to pay the police $5, and that's how they top up their salary. But the downside of that is some law enforcement can be quite, what you might call it, entrepreneurial, and a little bit over enthusiastic. For example, pulling people jumping yellow lights, which if you're doing 100 miles an hour and it's green and it flicks yellow, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to bail? Jump off the bike?
Yeah, I guess. Next time. I'll remember that next time. I'll let my bike fly through the intersection.
If you had the camera rolling, I'd love to see that video, Michael. Your bike skidding across the thing, you jumping off the bike in your full jiu-jitsu gear, hitting the ground.
I'm following the law.
Perfect balance, backflip, and then a bow. That'd go viral. We put that on our shorts channel.
100%.
All right, so next week we're going to get into, we'll do a deep dive on corruption. And we'll bring some maps in, and then we'll dive into that subject in a bit more detail, and we can all prepare for it ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Okay. So without further ado, should we segue off? So who's going to go first? I think Lawrence, you've been sort of quite quiet so far. Should we? Let's hand over
I'll
to
go
Lawrence.
first. Can you see the map now, guys?
Yeah.
Looks like a map stack. Looks like a map stack map.
Yeah, map stack. Have I talked about map stack yet today?
Yeah. Well, I think this is an interesting one because this is the first map where I've actually gone out onto the internet, found an open data portal. In this case, it was the World Bank. Downloaded it, cleaned up all the tables because it was just a mess. Made sure, got the geometries in terms of the country and the shapes, joined them together in QGIS, and then uploaded them into MapStack. I did pretty much the whole thing, and there are a lot of breakpoints along that way in terms of if you're not very experienced in doing it. Thankfully, I got all the way through, and it's actually I made maps after that 10 times faster, but it is quite a complex process. But in terms of the map that I made, I just wanted to make a very simple one with one data set, and this is life expectancy, and it's 2020 data from the World Bank. So let's just dig into let's just look at the top. So all across the world, you can see it by color. So if we apply a filter, I'm going to look for all the countries where the life expectancy is more than 83.
There's going to be many, I imagine.
There's 9.
Does anybody live over 83? Wow.
Yeah, so there's 9 countries, and these are. I don't think you'd be too surprised. I mean, they say that Italy is a blue zone, but it doesn't actually appear in the 9 results. As expected, you're going to see places like Japan. But let's look at the full list in terms of the number 1. And the number 1 is the Hong Kong, not country, it's the special administrative region.
It's not a country.
Yeah, it is not a country. So there we go. It's but it is. The data has been separated from China. So the actual life expectancy is the highest in the world in Hong Kong. So it's 85. But the top 4 are all essentially East Asia. So it's Japan, Singapore, South Korea, and then it goes to Norway, Australia, Switzerland, Faroe Islands, and Iceland. So there's 9 countries in the world where life expectancy is over 83. But yeah, the top 4 are all in, East Asia, essentially. So
Australia's surprising to me. I feel like there's so many dangerous things there. How do they stay alive for so long?
Yeah.
There's so many poisonous everything, right?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, what do you think about that, Chris? Have you got any
insights in long life?
What's it like to live to 83, Chris?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll tell you when I get there. It's an interesting map. There's sort of not many surprises there. I had you notice also the places that have the longest life expectancy are also the places with a very aged population. So remember the previous map. So there might be a little bit of some weird things happening with data here. I don't know this, but just a thought is the correlation between the distribution of age, so having lots of old people and also having the most old people, the higher life expectancy. Do you know what I mean? It's like those generational cohorts. Maybe the countries that have that bigger cohort at the top are the ones that have had the longest period of time with the most stability. Because life expectancy, you guys will know, for anybody who's worked in development aid in Cambodia, life expectancy, the biggest thing that a country can do to boost its life expectancy is to reduce infant mortality, child mortality, increase child mortality. I got it the wrong way around. But the big problem, when you look at countries in Africa and they say the average age or the life expectancy is 53, that doesn't mean you get to 53 and you drop dead. What it means is there are lots of kids who don't make it to 5. Okay, and that really throws the data. It's like the old thing, when you do your data course at school, they'll always say, when you're working with mean averages, as soon as Bill Gates moves into the neighborhood, and on average everybody's a millionaire.
Right.
Okay. So the same thing can also happen with age. So if you don't, so 2 things. One, the first way to move up a track is to get solve problems with child and infant mortality. That's usually to do with sanitation and hygiene are the biggest things for that. There's also some things to do with nutrition. So that boosts you up one, and then later life is really to do, I imagine, with healthcare and things like this. But if you think about when you do a mean calculation, if you don't have very many young people, it might skew your numbers. I don't know this for a fact, but it would just be an interesting one. The map I would love. Oh, sorry.
I was just saying that would make sense, especially like somewhere like Japan, where we've seen the data before, where that it is primarily older people. They have a lot less younger people now.
Yeah, I would love to see a map of median life expectancy. I think that would be pretty cool because we don't know at the moment. Do you know, Lawrence, whether that data was mean or median?
I think it was mean.
Yeah, so mean
averages across the whole. So
I would guess it was mean because if you go back across to Africa, if we zoom out on that map,
yeah,
okay, and move across to Africa, the levels are so low. So if you click on Chad, for example, there in the middle,
52.
52. Yeah, so I would guess because that's so low that this is a mean map because the countries in sub-Saharan Africa, the thing that they have a real problem with is children not making it to their 5th birthday, and that really throw out a mean average.
Yeah, Central African Republic 54.
Yeah, because we might find you mentioned Italy before, and everybody talks about the Mediterranean diet and how Italy people will live so long. Maybe if we did this as a median calculation, maybe Italy would start to shine again. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because they say it's one of the blue zones, right? It's like Japan, Italy. They say the Mediterranean diet. In terms of like reasonings why, I actually did find this because I find it interesting that Hong Kong was at the top, and there've been like a few reasons that they've posited. So I think we should probably just run through them. They say here like easy access to everything, so it's like easy to get around. It's like the streets are safe, easy access to public transport, healthy food. So I think this is like a base level. It says that it's an enabler in order for people to live a healthier lifestyle. And I haven't been to Hong Kong, but I have been to Singapore, which was 3rd. And Hong Kong looks like Singapore. It's like everything's very organized. It's clean. The public transport is very reliable.
I have been to Hong Kong. It's not Singapore.
Really? Okay.
No. So it's very.
Do you
different
disagree with this? Here it says that it's like easy access to public transport, healthy food, and public amenities.
Yeah, I would disagree. I would take issue with a couple of them. There was a point where I was thinking about moving to Singapore. So when we were moving out of Cambodia, I was looking at places. I was looking at Hong Kong, and I was looking at Singapore a little bit. So the first thing with Hong Kong is very, very densely populated. It's the amount of viable land that they have got for building is very small, so it's very high rise. To me, it felt like the air quality was not good there. So something we hear a lot about in the UK, they're rolling out all these ultra low emission zones where you can only drive cars in there if they're kind of electric or they sip a gas, because there's a lot of studies done about how detrimental bad air, carcinogens that are coming out of the back of cars are to your health. Hong Kong feels like quite polluted, and also because it's close to the areas in mainland China it's close to are quite industrial as well. So I imagine you've also got a lot of industrial scale air blowing in from the mainland. So it didn't feel super clean to me. And then in terms of walking around, it is a walking city. But the other thing, one of the things that really jumped out to me about Hong Kong and Singapore, and if you go and read expat sites about where would you choose to live, like Hong Kong, London, Singapore, one of the things that you'll see often talked about is food. So places like Singapore and Hong Kong, they basically import all of their food. They're not producing anything. So another thing that we often talk about with longevity is having and Michael will be able to know all about this, is locally sourced seasonal produce.
Yeah.
So you're eating
what grows nearby. Yeah.
Eating what grows nearby. In the UK, you can do that pretty easily. So one of the great things about the UK, and I think the UK is really a leader in this, actually. I think it does even better than Australia and places you think would do well. It's just the amount of fresh produce that's available and how affordable that fresh produce is. I think UK is still a country where it's cheaper to go and grab all the vegetables from the supermarket and cook your own thing than it is to go and get something out of the freezer aisle. But I've been to other countries. If you go to like Singapore or Hong Kong or Australia, that doesn't seem to be the case generally. The packaged food is the cheapest thing yet there. So in Singapore, that's what I felt. I felt the fresh produce was quite expensive. It didn't look the freshest. It was all kind of, you went in the meat section, and I'm in Singapore, and the lambs from New Zealand and the beefs from Australia. And, the potatoes are from like Eastern Europe or something, it Yeah, it wasn't great. Anyway, just food for thought there. So greener
Back
than
to-
blue.
I was smiling then because as you were saying that Guok, who did the research on this, saying we are greener than most cities, and then it also says older people
Interesting.
don't go to the supermarket; they go to open markets. So I think this may be an ad for people to move to
Hong
Hong
Kong.
Kong. I don't know, but
Yeah.
they're
Well, I
saying
got-
the air quality is great. It's a green.
Well, what are they
city.
comparing it to, though? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's easy to say it's great if you're
Well,
if you're
almost
leaving,
all-
maybe. You know.
Hong Kong districts, they're members of the WHO Global Network of Age-Friendly Cities, which
It's-
encourages the creation of urban spaces supportive of older people. So I think that it's sort of easy to walk, it's good air, safe.
I take issue with this. Okay, Singapore, I think, can play that card. Singapore is not as, because it's a whole island. It's nowhere near as compact as Hong Kong is, but the density does feel much lower. So what they'll tend to do in Singapore, there's a lot of like social housing, high-rise units, but they'll have lots of green space surrounding them and lots of parking. They're not very. Whilst in Hong Kong, every time I've stayed there, and I usually do Airbnbs there, is you'll open one of your windows and like you can nearly touch the window on the building next to you across the, they're that jammed in. I think we could actually do a little Pepsi challenge on this. I might let me open up a tab. I think we could pull Google Maps up here and let's just go and do a little bit of Street View and look at some imagery just to do the Pepsi challenge on this point. So I'm going to go into Google Maps. So this is another area where I think the UK really shines. I think the UK has been very good historically at preserving its green spaces. So I'm in Bristol right now. So here's the city. You don't have my screen. Okay, right. Let's get let's go screen share, entire window. There we go.
Let me bring out the clean air index.
Okay, let's break out the clean air index. So yeah, my screen should be coming up at the moment. Aaron just spoke in my ear. So here's Bristol, for example. So what you can see with Bristol is they're very good at here in the UK of keeping these kind of greenbelt areas. So you're in the city and you can see like large swathes of like parkland everywhere you go. So you're never usually more than like say 500 meters from some kind of park or football field or something like this. So this is so this is Bristol. Very green. Like that might not be the best. So let's go to London, for example. So because we want to compare apples with apples, comparing like a second tier city like Bristol might not be the best example. So here's London. Let's close this out. If we zoom into London, you'll see the same thing. The city is dotted with lots and lots of green space. So even in like central London, there's lots of parks, and some of these parks are huge. So there's Hyde Park there.
Wow. That's big.
Yeah, lots of green space. So you can see there's no areas where there's nothing there. Okay, lots and lots of greenery, lakes even. So UK is good at this. Now let's go to Singapore.
Yeah.
So I've spent quite a fair bit of time in Singapore as well. Singapore's often Singapore. What you need to remember with Singapore, it's not a city-state in the same way that Hong Kong is. It has the whole island, so and parts of the island are quite green. But the actual city, if we go down here, so you've got the kind of Docklands area here, and then sort of Chinatown and downtown. But if you zoom in, you'll see that they're also pretty good with the green space. Do you see these pockets of green space throughout Hong Kong? Gardens, botanical gardens.
And they got the gardens by the bay.
Oh yeah, the gardens by the bay. Yeah, like there we go.
Huge indoor
gardens. So they
garden there.
reclaimed land. Imagine how much it cost to reclaim this land for the bay here, and they used a lot of it for parks. Okay, so that shows like kind of good city planning. It's very green.
All right, let's see Hong Kong.
Let's go down to Hong Kong.
Let's see. I like how when you typed in Hong Kong, it just automatically said heavy traffic in this area. Like you hadn't even zoomed in on an area yet. They're just like anywhere in Hong Kong, heavy traffic.
Right. So Hong Kong, ignore these green spaces, these kind of hills. You're not there. Where you live in Hong Kong is you're either on the island and you're down here.
Oh yeah, where's the green?
Yeah, there's little pockets here and there, and then you come across the river here there are parts. It's not that bad actually. Maybe I was underselling it, but there are parks there. Okay, but yeah, my feeling was with it that it felt they weren't as plentiful or as large as they are
It does seem
in
it does seem fewer and further between than say London.
yeah. If like we zoom in a bit like we did in London. So yeah, we've got Kowloon Park. Okay.
But it's still, I would say, not nearly as bad as a place like, say, Phnom Penh, where there's very little emphasis. I mean, when they call something a park, it's usually just a place that hasn't been developed yet.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's not really a
And
park, you know.
Yeah.
the streets in Hong Kong to me feel like what you often think of like Manhattan. So if I just drop Mr. Stickman down here, you see this? So I just dropped on a random street, like wall to
Wall to
wall high
wall.
rises. It's like you're moving
Yeah.
through a tunnel of high rises. And then you know what it's saying about how close the buildings are together? Like most of them are even joined. There's like absolutely no gap between them. There's not much space around these buildings. Admittedly, every time I've gone to Hong Kong, I've been sort of downtown because it's usually been for like work type stuff. So, but yeah, it's very very dense. So just to do the same thing, just so we be fair, let's go to Singapore as well because I think Singapore's that's what we were talking about. Is Hong Kong like Singapore? Let me drop a random pin. So this is like downtown Singapore there. So let me get my little peg man. Let's just drop him on a random street in Singapore. So you see straight away, the density is just not the same as Hong Kong. Let me put the pin somewhere else. Maybe I just got lucky with that one, just to prove that's not a fluke.
It's still pretty green.
Yeah, still pretty green. Let's drop him in another area. So, bang, just random street.
Yeah, it looks like Singapore to me. I've spent a little time there, mostly walking around, and I can say, you know, compare it to something like Bangkok. There's lots of trees. There's lots of big trees. You know,
Yeah. It's really pleasant
Lots
to
of-
walk around Singapore for sure.
yeah, very
Yeah,
fresh.
Singapore's a pleasant place. Hong Kong's more fun. Okay, like don't let me knock on Hong Kong here because we're talking about longevity here. I'm not talking about what's the best city to live. Hong Kong's got like a vibe going on. It's got a lot of energy. There's a lot of it's a really cool place. Singapore can be a little slower paced, maybe a little bit more boring. I think it'd be safe to say, but yeah, very safe, extremely clean. But for longevity, I'd say yeah, Singapore in terms of like the clean air and things, Singapore's going to win it out. In terms of fresh produce, I think Hong Kong and Singapore suffer from the same problem. They don't produce anything, so everything comes in on a container ship. All right, I'll turn off my screen share now. Sorry, we went off on a tangent there. So we had the article, Lawrence. So what else did they have in the article? So what were the other points they were making in there? We'll see if we debunk.
An interesting one was they said that it was a determined population. So to underscore that, the estimate here is that 70% of Hong Kong residents over the age of 70 were born in mainland China. So they came over in search of like better opportunities. So the quote here is, a lot of them came as economic migrants and were almost triathletes. So they had to climb, they had to run, they had to swim in order to get there. So so the people that managed to get there were physically fitter. Therefore, that has then played out in the the demographics of in terms of longevity. So I think that's a really interesting point. They were more like fit, like they were fitter than their peers, which made them more likely to uproot, but also to actually get there as well. So that you've got the motivation and the ability. So I think that's an interesting point.
That also explains the economics as well, because Hong Kong has been considerably richer than mainland China, and still like per capita, apart from maybe Shanghai and a couple of places, still is. And that might be the other thing, when you have a country that's populated by people that have got the get up and go to get up and go, that tends to be the people that are most driven. People with less drive will stay at home. There's a really interesting talk online. I've forgotten the guy's name, but it was a TED talk, and he was talking about the problems of like global migration. So, there's one school of thought that to solve all the world's problems, we should just have like, open borders and accept as many migrants into a country as possible to like solve global poverty. And he has this experiment where he has these big jars with marbles, and he has these jars. These are all the people you've seen it. Yeah. So these are all the jars of the people in the world that live on under $2 a day. Mm-hmm. And then he was saying, I think they were using America as an example, and they were saying America at the moment it allows 500,000 people to come into the country, migrate per year. And he was saying that's half a marble. And there's these stacks of all these marbles here. He said, say we doubled it to 1 million or tripled it, it's still only 3 marbles. And then he was talking about the birth rate of the countries that are on those lowest wages. So he goes, you're not making a dent because they're accelerating. And then he said there's a hidden problem with migration, which was exactly what we were talking about. The people that tend to migrate tend to be
they're your best.
Your best. Yeah, your best are the ones that go first. So the people that are best equipped to change the conditions in the country itself that can have the biggest impact are the ones that are actually leaving. So when you have migration that comes into your country, the people that you're often accepting are not the subsistence farmers living on $2 a day. It tends to be the people that are educated and can speak English and think that they can have a crack. They would have a better chance in the other country. So yeah, that's a problem, and it's like a touchy subject about how to deal with that. In terms of and ending global poverty, because I think that you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who doesn't want that to happen as soon as as quickly as possible. But what's the right strategy? Is
legalize cannabis.
Okay, there we go. Stage right. Okay, Michael, sell it to me. Legalize cannabis.
Look at Thailand. They're doing great. Farmers are making more. They're making a killing. And they went Thai first. So Thai, they kept the big foreign businesses out and let the Thai people get a head start on it. The industry there. I think that's how, give them better crops to work with. Not everybody can just grow rice, is all I'm saying,
Yeah, okay.
So.
The weed.
Anyway, you can cut that out if you need to.
No, we'll keep that in there. Michael. Yeah.
Global poverty via cannabis. I mean,
That's
you heard it here first.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so back to your article, Lawrence. Oh, sorry.
The next point, it would be it says a take on the Mediterranean diet. So it's fresh fish, fruit, vegetables. But one thing that I did find, which is slightly controversial in terms of the overarching sort of health message, and like this is non-partisan, but this is just data that I found. So Hong Kong has one of the highest meat consumptions per capita in the world at 664 grams a day. So more than half a kilo of meat every day.
Is that broke down by different animals? Like, can we know if that's
it's
pork?
Beef? I'm telling you,
I know it's pork.
It's pork. It's roast
pork. We're in Asia, dude. It's pork.
It's pork. It says especially it's pork and beef, which is like the worst meats apparently as well in terms of like.
Or most delicious, depending on how you look.
They're the most delicious, but like the people who live longest in the world eat the most meat by the looks of it. So 664 grams per day. That's insane.
And they're not eating the lean cuts either. When you're having the roast pork, it's the pork belly. It's the pork belly, or what they call it in Cambodia, the baijian, the 3 layers.
Yeah.
That's the delicious stuff. They're eating loads of that.
Yeah. Beef, pork, duck. That's like Chinese foods. What do you think of when it's fatty meat? So they're eating lots of fatty meat. But it does say in the article here that they eat a lot of fresh fish, fruit, and vegetables as well, and also it's about going to open markets. So it's about, going to get produce. You say fresh produce, but, it's imported, obviously. But you can go and get fresh produce from an open market. So, again, diet could be something to look at, in terms of life expectancy, if you want to boost that up. It's, eating, fresh food, fish, fruits, but also meat as well.
Well, I'm hoping that diet is the key to longevity, because that's basically all we eat at home. My wife, we've been married, I don't know, 17 years now. She still's not taken to English food. She's not having it. So we eat dinner every night is Asian food.
Really? I heard English food was so good.
It's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste, Michael. Yeah. Sure. I could get her to eat a roast on Sunday. We'll have some roast meat and some roast potatoes. I can occasionally talk her into some sausage and mash. But if I told her that, right, we're going to eat English food for dinner 7 days a week for a month, she would pack her bags and go. That'd be the end of it. Luckily, I actually prefer Asian food, so I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah,
and
me too.
we eat a lot of fatty pork. So I'm hoping the data out of Hong Kong gives me hope that I'm not clogging up my arteries.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in terms of the last couple, if the diet is sorted, we can eat the pork belly and the fresh fish, fruit, etc. The last things are the value of family and then good weather. I mean, it's a subtropical climate, and I think all three of us know what it's like to live in a really nice sort of hot climate. And then in terms of the value of family, it's just like close familial networks. They provide financial and social support. So yeah, so it's family, it's good weather, it's a good diet, being determined, fit, motivated, good hospitals and good living environment. I mean, these seem to be the secret sauce for longevity.
Well, the family one especially, I think having that wider social network. We talked about it on here before, but the really interesting thing with Hong Kong is there's nowhere to move to. A big problem in most countries is you move to the city or you go somewhere for the way. Hong Kong's like this big. Like you can move from one bit of Hong Kong to the furthest part away from you. You're still only like 3 miles away, probably. I don't know. It's in a small area. So you and your family are always going to live in the same city, and that's kind of pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's speaking of Hong Kong though, on a sort of side note, there's huge migration into the UK at the moment from Hong Kong. So the UK basically opened up to Hong Kong and said anybody that holds, I've forgotten what the type of passport is, but there's an old type of British passport that you could have out of Hong Kong, can move to the UK. And there's been a lot. My mum's next door neighbours from Hong Kong. My next door neighbours from Hong Kong. My kids' school, there's a lot of kids from Hong Kong. Here in Bristol.
Probably looked at some of the immigration data recently. I mean, Hong Kong accounts for a very large percentage of the actual immigration coming into the UK over the last year or so because of that deal to offer, for people with that specific passport. I mean, there's a lot of people making that move right now.
Yeah. And from what I've seen as well, it's probably to the detriment of Hong Kong because like I said, small sample size, but the parents that I've met at the kids' school, my neighbours, my mum's neighbours, like my neighbours next to me are both pharmacists, like very high level people from a global company, and now they're working here in the UK. The parents at the kids' school, all I've seen is very highly qualified professionals that are coming here to the UK. So I think, China, what's going on there? I don't want to talk about politics here on the podcast, but I think they're probably shooting themselves in the foot because from what I've seen, it's probably that best and brightest cohort that seems to be exiting Hong Kong and heading for the UK, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, maybe I should pull some data on that at some point. But I do remember looking at the immigration statistics and just being like, "Wow, the sheer volume is very high," and it has been for the past year or two, I think. So
yeah, I think it was after the protests. So after the protests in Hong Kong, I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people. And you remember that there's some politics there as well because the UK handed Hong Kong back to China because they basically had a contract, I've forgotten what it was, 100 years or something, and handed over.
97? Was it 97?
Yeah,
that it was given back?
Yeah. But there was an agreement in there. I don't know the details. I'm going to butcher this terribly. But the agreement at the handover went something like, we'll hand it back to China as we agreed, but you have to guarantee certain rights for a certain period of time. It was a crossover period. I think it was like 50 years to say that you free press, democracy, all of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And then
I think they called it like one country, two systems, or there was like a
systems.
buzzword like that. Like it was supposed to, like a special administrative region.
I think it got cut short though. I think that was the case.
They've been putting the squeeze on Hong Kong more and more.
Yeah.
So then what the UK did, they said, well, China's breached their side of the bargain. There's not a lot we can do about that in a geopolitical sense. But what we can do is we can say anybody from Hong Kong that's not happy with it, you can come here. And like we said, the immigration numbers show that a large number of people have done that. And that's really interesting as well, because if you look at the GDP per capita, the people that are moving, often immigration, a subject is about like economic migration. So a big driver of the migration is for improved economic situations. But if you look at the GDP per capita and the median incomes for Hong Kong, they're all higher than the UK. You're not coming to the UK to get a higher salary, especially the professional people that I've met that are moving. They're coming to the UK because of something else. They're saying that we put a value on, freedom, democracy. Now, the UK is not, I wouldn't say is a bastion for all of that, but we're pretty good. We're pretty good. We're not the best, but we're pretty good. So people are willing to actually take a financial hit in order to have those freedom, which is interesting because that's counter to the narrative that you often hear that everybody who's coming to a country is just here so they can get more money or get more benefits or get these kind of things. It shows that there's other factors that are very important to people as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I suppose that sort of has exhausted in terms of like Hong Kong and life expectancy. I think it's sort of turned into the theme of the podcast almost, um, which is good. As we said at the start of the podcast, we wanted to like stick to a single theme. So I think this one is life expectancy, and then it's got that the Hong Kong sort of theme there as well. So I know, Michael, you had like a bit of a tough start.
I do have a
Did you
game.
bring
It's
anything?
gonna. Yeah, I do have a game. It's a bit brief, but yeah, no, I actually I have a question. On that list that you had of those top countries, what's
Let's
something
pull
that
the map
Hong
back
Kong
up.
has? Yeah, what's something that Hong Kong has in common with the other things on that list that aren't immediately noticeable? Like they're not in the same geographic region. They're sort of dotted all over the place. I know that
Yeah.
Japan and South Korea. I feel
Well,
like
the top
especially
four are
Japan
all
makes
East
sense.
Asia. The top four are all.
Okay.
So yeah, the top four are all East Asia, and then you have other zones after that. It's Norway and Iceland. I suppose that there's some similarities there in terms of the Nordics. Australia, like I said, that's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah, I was gonna say
might be
Australia
keeping in
seems like our
mind, yeah.
outlier here.
Yeah,
Like,
and then you've got Switzerland and the Faroe Islands. I imagine the Faroe Islands, they've got a very small population, so maybe there's a high quality of life there. And
Well,
I don't know.
It'd be interesting to see this alongside some data. So this is something we want to have in MapStack in the future. Is when we have maps with different data points, we'll be able to do these mashups where you can pull in other data points to try and visualize any kind of correlations. Now, the list of European countries there, wealth is a big factor. Okay, so Norway is an extremely wealthy country. So Norway's got all the good stuff. Norway's extremely green, very low population density, a
salmon.
very rich country because not only is it a service-based economy, it also has huge amounts of oil. They have a sovereign wealth fund there,
I
which
didn't know that.
basically has millions of dollars per head of population in it, stored in it. So Norway's. I'm actually going there for a wedding in August, so I'll give you a trip report when I come back.
Okay.
But yeah. I have a few Norwegian friends, and they all tell me it's hideously expensive, so I'm not looking forward to that part.
Okay.
But yeah, and then Iceland, same thing, very prosperous country, very low population density, probably a lot of fish, pickled fish. Maybe pickled fish is the key. Switzerland,
Maybe.
once again, very well off place.
Yeah. I suppose what else could you look at? I mean, they all have large coastline. Maybe again, fish.
Yeah,
Fish
it's got to be
diet,
a
I don't
connection
know.
between fish. I know in Japan they attribute there's an island there where there's the highest per capita of centaurians there. I can't remember what the name of the island is, but it's where the
Okinawa?
most. Is it Okinawa? I think that
Yeah.
it might be. It's like where the most number of people have lived to be over 100, and I think they attributed that. I read an article some years ago where they attributed it to the coral calcium, like the coral is high in calcium, and then a lot of that calcium gets deposited, and they have the calcium there that they can use to as like a fertilizer for the soils, and so that calcium becomes very bioavailable to the people that live there. But there was no concrete like this is for sure why, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely fish related. I'm guessing.
The map that I would love to see is the median. I want to see the median. Because it lends itself so much to what we've looked at before, GDP per capita in countries, and also what's the age distribution. I'm just wondering whether, as a mean, we're getting thrown out slightly because the countries that have the most old people are the ones that kind of developed first. This pattern of having older populations is basically the kind of order that countries developed in. So the most developed countries seem to have played that out the most. So it would be interesting to see whether, if we put it into a median, whether it changes the picture at all. Maybe Italy would pop up on the map, because if you had have asked me before we saw this map which country, I was sure Italy was going to be in the mix because everybody always talks about it.
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah, like I said, I was surprised it wasn't there because it's always talked about as one of those blue zones, right?
If we have one more time, I'll do the Pepsi challenge and see whether I can make a map live on the podcast with that data. But yeah, I'm not sure whether. I wonder how quickly I could do that.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll swap you out, Lawrence, with the screen share. Cool. All right. So I don't know how high of a resolution you'll be able to see it in, but we've got this quiz here now. I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably gonna be much better at this than you guys because I work a lot in time zones. I know Lawrence, you do a lot of stuff across time zones, but this is basically it's 50 questions. You got 7 minutes. I did one little practice round. I didn't do the full 7 minutes. I just did it just to see how it plays through. But what they're gonna do, just to sort of throw it out there for you, is they'll give you this amount of time to name, starting at GMT time, like Greenwich Mean Time. You got to name one European country that's in that time zone. And then you got to do the same. You could do the same for Africa, and then you got to do the same for Asia if it's in that time zone. Then they're going to give us GMT +1 and then +2, and you just got to name one country per continent per time zone.
Okay.
So, and we can skip. Like if we get stuck, we can skip one. If we spend too much time on it. But so let me know when you guys are ready. I'll hit play, and you just start shouting them out. I'll type them in.
Yeah,
All right,
ready.
all right.
All right, let's do it. All right, so if we start in UTC or GMT Europe, that's pretty easy, right?
So yeah, UK,
England, right? Yeah, England. Oh, yeah. Let's see, UK. There we go. Okay, now we're in Africa, same time zone. GMT Africa.
Ivory Coast.
Ivory Coast. There we go. Okay, now GMT Europe +1. That would be Central European time
France
zone.
or Germany?
Yeah,
France.
Germany, Denmark.
Germany. I spelled Germany wrong. There we go. Okay, Africa +1.
Chad.
Okay, Chad. Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah. Europe +2. Now we're in Western.
Ukraine.
Is that there? How do you spell Ukraine? Yeah, that's there. All right, Africa, South Africa, I think.
Zimbabwe. Oh, South Africa. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then we got Asia +2.
Turkey.
This is where it gets tricky. Okay, Turkey. Nope.
Oh, so it's probably casting Turkey as Europe then. Put like Syria, Lebanon, Israel.
Okay, Syria hit it. And now we're in Africa. GMT
Ethiopia.
+3.
Ethiopia, Kenya.
Your favorite place,
Ethiopia.
Michael.
Asia +3. What we got?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi. Let's see if I can spell today. Arabia. Yep. Europe +3.
Europe +3. We've gone as far east. We're gonna have to go Russia then. If they could probably obviously class it. Yeah.
Let's just. Yeah, Russia works. Okay, Asia +330.
Iran.
Yeah, Iran.
Let's try Iran. Okay, cool. +4 on Asia.
+4 on Asia. India. No. Wait.
No. We're not there yet. No.
Where's that? Is it where the dot is? That doesn't even look like Asia there. So that's probably going to be like Turkmenistan or one of those ones. One of the stans.
Kyrgyzstan.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, one of the stands.
It's not Turkey. Let's try
not Turkey. No, Turkey will be for Europe, I think, in the
Turkmenistan. Nope.
No.
I'm gonna figure this one out.
Afghanistan.
I just did Russia, and I have a feeling that I'll be able to cheat and put Russia for several of these because they're in so many, and they're technically I think Europe and Asia somehow. But anyway, okay, so we got Europe. We're running low on time. We're 4 minutes in.
Russia.
We're gonna just spam Russia.
Yeah, it's got to be Russia. Russia's the only.
Madagascar.
Okay, so now we're
Madagascar.
Madagascar. Spelled it wrong. Seychelles. Yay, got it. Okay, Asia.
Okay,
4:30. 4:30 next to India.
Pakistan.
Pakistan. How do you spell Pakistan?
Yeah, that's right.
There we go. Oh no, it's not. Wrong time zone.
Wrong time zone. So
Iraq?
is it too much or too little?
Afghanistan.
Iraq. No.
Afghanistan.
Yeah, Afghanistan. Yeah.
Afghanistan.
It's H.
Just an H.
Yeah, that one worked. Okay, now we're in Asia +5.
Asia +5. So what's that? It looks like we're north of Afghanistan.
Nope.
I think Russia again.
Let's just see if we could. Nope.
Try Georgia.
Georgia.
Georgia's not Asia.
Nope.
No.
We can
So
skip
what's in
it.
that? Yeah, it's those kind of steppe countries. Yeah, skip it. Let's go to the next one.
All right, next one. Okay, Asia. India. Asia 5:45.
Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
5:45.
Nope.
Syria.
It's a weird one.
Sri Lanka.
Maybe, yeah. Sri Lanka. Lanka? Nope. Oh, wait. I
It's going
spelled
to
it
be.
wrong.
It's going to be one of those islands. Then what are the islands that are in the? All right, +6, +7. Go, but try Myanmar. Maybe we'll go Myanmar.
Maybe. Myanmar.
5:45. It's going to be an island though. Anywhere else is going to be on the hour.
Bhutan?
It's still not Myanmar. Bhutan,
BHU.
I think skip it. This is going to be a weird one. It's going to be some island.
Yeah, it'll tell us at the end. Okay, Asia again, +6.
Was
Let me
Russia.
cheat real quick. Yeah, Asia 630. Let me see if I can do it again. No, okay. So now we're down into where
Mongolia.
we're from. Okay. Oh, no. Let's see. This is Asia. Oh, it's maybe Mongolia.
Well, it's Myanmar that's on the picture there, but
yeah.
These weird ones that are half an hour are always going to be like these small countries that jam between something, aren't they? Yeah, try.
Could this be Bhutan?
Could be. Give it a go. Nepal.
Oh, Nepal. Let's try Nepal.
I think skip those half-hour ones. Those half-hour ones
weird,
are always
man.
going to be like cheats, aren't they?
All right, +7. That's
+7. Well, that's easy. Thailand, Cambodia.
Yeah, Asia +8. That's China. It's the
+8.
only
Hong
one.
Kong, Singapore.
Oceania. Now we've got how do you spell
Western Australia?
Yep. Asia +9.
Japan, Korea, South Korea.
Japan, Oceania. We've got what's over there? Philippines.
What's that? Oceania, like Papua New Guinea.
I don't know how to spell Philippines. Papua.
Samoa.
How do you spell Guinea? Guinea?
Maybe.
Nope.
No.
What else is over there?
Polynesia? Is that a country? Why is that coming in?
What's in Asia? Maybe, what is it, +9? Maybe have a crack
Oh,
at
Indonesia.
No, Indonesia's, yeah, it could be. One of the islands will be, but it's going to be, it's going to be one of the island places like Tonga, Samoa.
Oh, yeah, Tonga or Palau or...
Yeah.
Try Palau. Palau. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. Cool. We got Palau. Then I can say Australia again.
Minute left.
Only I knew how to spell Australia. Okay. Asia +10. Now we can certainly. It's got to be.
Let's just keep cheating. We just go Russia. Look where the
Russia
arrow is.
again. Yeah. Okay. Oceania. Now we're into Papua New Guinea.
Fiji or Papua. I don't know. Fiji's further west, isn't it, or further east?
Oh my gosh! How do you spell Papua New Guinea? Yeah, I got it. Okay. Oceania +1030.
It's Australia
again, yeah. Okay, Asia +11. Mongolia?
Asia +11. What's right out there?
I have no idea. Let's see. Japan again? No.
South Korea, not China.
Oh, we did China already. They've only got one time zone, I think.
They might have. They've only got one time zone, have they?
Yeah, they don't. And they don't do daylight savings or nothing. Just one, and it's China time.
Okay,
let's see.
Yeah, you've only got
over there.
Oh, go Russia again. Go Russia because it's probably like Vladivostok, isn't it?
Oh, it was Russia. Cool. Okay, Oceania. We got 10 seconds. Oceania.
New Zealand.
Oh no. We ran out of time. Oh man. Okay, so let's see these ones that we missed. We've got Myanmar. I totally put in Myanmar. Whatever. I'm gonna let it go. And then what was this other one we missed up here? Of course, we missed all of the north. These would have been easy anyway, but this was the hard part for sure. Solomon Islands would have worked. Nepal apparently was one of the.
I don't know what the label's doing there.
I thought we guessed it.
We did say Nepal. I'm sure we said.
I think
Nepal.
so. Maybe we were on the wrong one when we said it.
We just said it the wrong one. It was all those ones that were on the half hour and 45 minutes we were getting
right.
stuck
Yeah. But anyway, this is fun because I don't think it's possible. I don't know who could possibly do 51 of these on their own in 7 minutes, but
someone's done it. You go on YouTube. There'll be some black.
There'll be somebody speed running it, and they can type 90 words per minute. So anyway, this is a fun game, and especially if you have a job like mine where your job might be remembering time zones. Like sometimes someone will be in Canada. I'll be like, they're in such and such time zone. It helps if you're booking calls and things like that. This sort of keep you sharp. And I had one more that I was looking at, but I didn't find anything too interesting. It was pesticide use worldwide. To be honest, there wasn't any interesting stories here to me.
We're running in on the hour now, so maybe we'll wrap up and we'll save the pesticides one for next time. So once again, we're on the podcast we went all over with. So the format for the next one is we're gonna take a deep dive. So the podcast now we're gonna go deep dive, and we're gonna go a deep dive on corruption. Police corruption specifically. That's what we'll take a look at. We'll see if there's data for that, or maybe just corruption in general. I know that there's a global data set called the Global Perceived Corruption Index, which is very important because most governments are not very good at recording their own acts of corruption. So the much better thing is to survey people that live there, and they give scores. We can share what that survey looks like as well. That would be pretty cool, actually. Share exactly what the questions on the survey are, because then people at home will be able to follow along and think, well, if I filled this survey in for my country, what would it look like? And it covers all levels of graft, from very, very simple things up to like really like serious graft. Okay, let's do that in the next podcast. Anyone else got any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Don't run the yellow light.
Don't run the yellow lights. Yeah.
Just stop on green.
Oh,
Just
man,
stop
you
on
should
green.
have asked for that photo. I want to see the photo of you running a yellow light.
I'm gonna go back tomorrow and pay the
guy.
guy $10 because he told me to, and I'm gonna make sure I get that photo.
Oh yeah. That photo would be worth the $10.
Absolutely.
Bring it to the pod next time, Michael. Send an intermediary first and say he's only going to show up with the 10 if you got the photo.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Okay, let's wrap it up there then, guys. All right, I'll speak to you all next time.
See you next week, guys.
Take care.